Hi guys, Blake here today with Lilley's Landing Resort in Marina on beautiful upper Lake Taneycomo. It is been off for the last 3 days. It's Wednesday, June the 30th, and I'm going to do the one cast for you today. Okay, so today I boated up here. I am starting just right here at the Trophy Run Island, which isn't much of an island right now. They are running 4 units of water at the moment. They just bumped it up. It looked like it had been at 6,000 or 7,000 all day, and then just this last hour they bumped it up to a full 12,800 something. So today I've got jerk baits on drift rigs. I've got a bunch of different ones rigged up here in case we lose some or in case we want to try a different color. But we did just get a huge shipment of all kinds of 762 style, that's this model here, in all kinds of different paint jobs. And so I really wanted to get out here and try them. This one they're calling Pink Panther. It kind of looks like a rainbow trout, except painted pink on the sides with the dots. And pink is a pretty good color out here a lot of the time, so we'll find out how the pink jerkbait does. I've got that on about 2.5 foot of 4-pound Trilene XL line for my leader here, up to my size 12 barrel swivel. And then I've got a size 12 snap swivel that's sliding freely on the other side of the line there, with an 1/8 ounce bell sinker attached. This rod also has 4-pound coming off the reel, same line. Some of the rigs I have here have 6-pound coming off of them. They're the rigs that I use for throwing jerk baits at night. I like to use a little heavier line, but as long as you've got this leader line on here, your 4-pound, you're good to go there. I've got a spot locked here, and so I'm going to take the spot lock off and let the boat get to drifting. Really foggy this afternoon. We had a pretty significant thunderstorm that came in, lasted about an hour. Real heavy soaker rain, blew in sideways, but it blew out about as fast as it blew in. Okay, I think I'm drifting fast enough. No, I don't like to cast those out too very far away from the boat, just 20-30 feet or so. Let's see, the rod I'm using today is the Lilleys rod, the 6'6" medium light with a fast action tip. So I know we've talked about this before, but the fish really don't like it whenever they go from nice 2-unit flow all day to all of a sudden 4 units. It doesn't make them happy. But I will say that the method that we're doing right now, dragging the jerk baits, can be pretty successful, even in slow water, but especially whenever they bump the water up in the 3 or 4 units. It's a bigger presentation. It makes a lot of movement, and it gets right down there on the bottom where those fish are sitting, trying to keep from moving very much. This is still, on any given day, a go-to method for me to try to figure out how to catch some fish. And this area where I started specifically, because of the way the water rushes through here, it actually kind of keeps the bottom kind of at the bedrock level where there's not a lot of stuff gets to grow. And so sometimes, like, normal presentations don't work as well here, but I have found that in this trophy run section that drifting a jerkbait is usually, this is a pretty productive area for it. Now, like I said, they just turned the water up on these fish. I imagine they're a little grumpy. I talked to Captain Steve Dickey on my way up here. He said that they were up here drifting jigs under an indicator before they kicked the 4 units on, and said that they were catching some fish, and that as soon as they kicked it up, the fish stopped biting their jigs. They were down at the Narrows fishing size 12 scuds under an indicator, and said that they were back to catching some fish, but he said they definitely got a little case of lockjaw after they turned the water up on them. Passed a gentleman fishing in a pontoon boat, right actually in the section we're in right now, on my way up to the spot there, and he said that the fish were biting pretty moderately for him, and he was just dragging a glow ball, which we call those miracle flies up in the shop. They're just a little fur ball with a 100th ounce jig head on them. I'm gonna go ahead and reel this in. There is anytime they turn the generators up like that, it usually kicks up quite a bit of moss. So, and yep, I was definitely mossed up. No fish on the first cast. One thing that I do like to try is get in here on this inside edge whenever the water's running this fast. Sometimes those fish will pile up right over here on this north bank, and sometimes you can get them to bite right over here against this edge. You gotta hit where the drop off is though. If you cast too far up there where the water's at right now, you'll just cast into the grass and your lure will get hooked up pretty fast. The 1/8 ounce weight is all you need to get these jerkbaits to the bottom. I will say though, when the water is running like this, that it does take 10-15 seconds before it hits the bottom, so just be patient. You'll eventually feel it get there. Cosman from LOZ Lures, they were out here dragging what they call their Taneycomo drifter, which is just a little jerkbait that they paint up. And of course that was today whenever they were running the steady 2 units of water. But they said that they had a successful day according to their post, dragging the jerkbaits, so that got me all excited for dragging jerkbaits. So I thought I'd come out and give it a try. Now of course with this 4 units and all that moss stirred up, I think I've already found another whole batch of moss here. And sure enough, this may not be the most effective method at the moment. If I'd been able to come out here a few hours after they turn the water up, then it's possible that some of this moss could have cleared out. It may have been a little bit better for this, but we're just going to keep on trying it. I think they're still calling for some more chances of rain here this evening. And we have a cool down coming this week where it'll be in the 80s, and I think there's even a day where it's supposed to be at like about 79 degrees, so that's exciting. all this quick thunderstorms mixed with the sun coming back out has spelled for some very humid 90-degree days. Let's see, other fishing reports. I went to Bull Shoals last night. They've been having reports of people catching some stripers down there. And some pretty big ones at that. And so we got out and tried our hand at it. We only found one striper. It was a little baby one. And some white bass and a few very quality largemouth. But we did not find the big striper last night. We were throwing big giant rubber swim baits for those. Let's see, Dwayne had a trip last night. They started in the evening, probably around this time in the evening, and fished past dark. They started off the evening throwing 110+1s while the light was still up. The Signature Series 110+1s and the 606s. Rainbow flavor, and the first fish they caught was a 22.5-inch rainbow. They were jerking it against the bluff down here below Lookout Island. Yeah. And then I think they wound up, once it was dark, they were running 3 units. They dropped it back down to 3 units yesterday after it got dark. And he said the bite wasn't quite as good. Anytime it's running that fast, it's hard to keep those fish on the line when you're spot locked at night throwing jerk baits. But they managed to land a 24-inch rainbow and another 20-inch rainbow, all in a matter of a few hours yesterday evening into the nighttime. So that early morning, late evening, and nighttime jerkbait bite has been very hot the last few weeks since we got into the long days of the summer. And right now the problem I'm facing is I'm getting moss on that line so quickly that the bait's really not having enough time to get a good presentation. I'm hoping once I drop below Lookout here we can find maybe a little cleaner bottom. Maybe get that thing to stay down there long enough to get a fish's attention. But even when they're running the 1 unit, 2 units, you're struggling, get out a small floating jerk bait, take the belly hook off, put it on this drift rig, and give it a try. You can really tell once that jerk bait gets the moss on it. Initially it has a really nice hard wobble. You can kind of feel it ticking the bottom. But as soon as that moss gets on there, you lose that action. It feels a little more dull, kind of like right there. That was probably the longest drift I'd gotten without feeling anything, but definitely picked up some moss right there. I think a shorter cast sometimes when you're dragging something kind of helps keep a sharper angle. Sometimes it doesn't allow for the line to pick up as much moss if the moss is floating. picked up a lot of moss that time. And we've been trying this lure for, 15 minutes. Look at that ball of moss. That's almost a 20-incher. So, come on, get off of there. I'm gonna just break out one of the other colors here. And we're gonna try it for a second. And another thing to note is that when the water's running this fast, you can get out and go down below the trophy area and do the same thing. Okay, so this one they're calling the radioactive rainbow, and same setup as far as the drift rig. This rod I'm using is actually one of our old commemorative rods, which they don't make anymore. But it is a 5'6" lightweight rod, and jigging wise, little harder to jig with, but it is great for dragging stuff across the bottom. You get a lot of sensitivity. This is probably one of those days when it'd be, or at least for now while the water's still churning up all kinds of stuff, it'd probably be better to get up against a bluff with like the deeper diving jerk baits, the 606 or the 110+1, or anything that you have that dives a little deeper, and throw it against the bluff over there and see if you can get one of those fish laying in tight to the bluff to react and bite it. There's actually so much moss in the water that even just a little bit of line I can see here going down in the water is picking up a ton of moss. So not very conducive for what I'm trying to do at the moment. Hey, there's a fish though. He liked the radioactive rainbow. One thing I have noted about using these is that you're only using that belly, or that tail hook, and once they get up top and start to jumping around, they can kind of throw those hooks pretty easy. So you want to get your net ready if you're really intending to land the fish. It does look like a nicer rainbow there. He's really playing me here. Come here, buddy. Just want a picture. Oh yeah, that's a pretty one. Woo! There's Dwayne right there. That was the first one I've caught since trophy run. Yep. The bottom seems to be a little cleaner right here.
It is. It's been a lot cleaner from here down.
But there's a lot of moss in the water. They just bumped it up to 4 units.
Yeah. They're supposed to shut it down pretty soon though.
Are they?
Yeah, 2-hour deal.
Okay. Good luck, guys. That was Dwayne just getting ready to start his night fishing trip, taking a few more people to the dark side. Okay, so we are coming up on the tennis courts, just right down here on the left or right, whichever side I'm standing on. And I'm just gonna kind of keep drifting the center. Another thing to note is that anytime you have a channel, okay, like the bluff here, coming down from Lookout Island, generally speaking, the moss will build up more on the channel side. So I'm just attempting to kind of stay more in the middle, kind of away from the deepest part of the channel there, and hope that I can kind of keep away from the biggest buildups of moss. Obviously, whenever it's stirring up like this, you're going to find it everywhere, but if you can avoid the concentrated spots, you might stand a better chance of catching a fish. There's still a lot of trophy fish being pulled out of the lake almost on a daily basis right now. I know this last week Captain Tony Lilleys found 3 or 4, and I think Dwayne had another day just the day before yesterday, or maybe the day before that, where they found 3 trophies in one trip. I know Captain Rick Lysick, they pulled out a nice one just a couple days ago, and so there are a lot of trophy fish being caught right now. And I will say, if you're coming out, there's another fish. Oh, he got off. If you are coming out and you want to try dragging the jerkbaits, at least so far as I can tell, the cleaner spot for moss has been once we got about 200 yards below Lookout Island there, and we're getting some fish to bite now. So, or if you're out here and something similar happens where you've been dragging it all over the lake and catching fish, and then they bump the 4 units up and you seem to be struggling, maybe this is the stretch to do it in here. But don't put it past going down to going down below the trophy area when they're running this much water. You can actually drag these jerk baits whenever the CFS is equivalent to 12 to 13,000 like it is right now. You can drag these jerk baits all the way down to our resort and even a little bit past and still get an effective presentation. And I've caught some really healthy brown trout and some nice rainbows, but specifically more on the brown trout side of things, dragging these jerk baits when the water's running 4 units or faster, kind of by our dock or below. So if you're looking to target one of them elusive brown trout, this is a way to do it. And whenever the water's running fast, you can use this method down lower past our dock and have a better chance at finding one. Whenever the fish start to bite this, you finally get used to the way it feels dragging across the bottom. You know, the little ticking action, the current kind of taking it left and right. Once you've drug it for long enough, you get used to that. But once a fish gets on it, if they don't immediately get the hooks, they'll chase after it and they'll tap it, and you can kind of feel the difference. It takes a little bit of practice, but if you do start to feel those taps, you definitely want to wait for that full pull motion, because they're tapping it with their head or their mouth and they haven't got a hold of it yet. The current's kind of pushed me a little farther over towards the north bank than I want to be. I'm going to scoot back closer to that channel side. One of my favorite things about these rigs is you can kind of beat them on the water and get a lot of that moss off. One of my biggest brown trout I've ever caught here on the lake was actually right in this section, and it was when the floodgates were on. But I think the equivalent CFS was about 15,000, and we're at about 13,000 right now, so not too much of a difference. And I was dragging an actual crankbait. It was one that Dwayne painted, a signature series one. But it was a crankbait that would dive up to like 16 feet. And when the water's moving this fast, you can actually get drifting with the current at speed, cast it upstream as far as you can, kind of rip it down to the bottom real quick, and the current's fast enough to keep it at the bottom. And you just drift with the crankbait and let it drag the bottom. Now obviously you want to be kind of clear of the moss for that method, because the bill is actually digging the bottom the whole time. So if there's a bunch of moss, that won't work. But that would be a method that if they were running a constant 4 units and the water was a little cleaner, that you could try as well. I guess we'll drift on down to the Narrows. We're only a few minutes away. I'm really tempted to throw out 2 rods at once and double my chances here, but usually it just means I lose 2 jerk baits at once. But you know what? We're gonna do it. Okay, the other lure I'm gonna throw out here is going to be a signature series 762 Plum Stupid, which has been working phenomenally at nighttime lately. Well, we're gonna try 2 rods at once, see how it goes. I can tell you for sure that this first rod has some significant amount of moss on it. A few days ago, Levi and I went down lower end of Lake Taneycomo and did some bass fishing. I've only been down to the lower lake. I guess that was my 3rd time going down there, and we didn't even go all the way to Rockaway Beach, but we found a few spots off to the left and right, kind of little coves, that looked pretty good. And we threw some topwater baits, specifically the Head and Lucky 13 lure, and it was just a tournament, Bass Pro's Tournament Series sticko worm with like a 3/0 shanked hook, and that was actually what really did the best. We were just throwing them over the top of grass beds and letting them sink without a weight. And the bass were really tearing them up. We didn't catch anything too big, but that was a change of pace and a lot of fun. We also did it in the middle of a thunderstorm, which the bass did not seem to mind. Alright, we are officially at the Narrows here. With 4 units of water, plenty of water to just drift straight over the top of the Narrows without any concern. feel like this rod has gotten a bunch of moss on it again here. And just a little bit of moss like this one here right on the bill will prevent that lure from working right. So you really need to clean all of it off every time. Okay, well, we made it to the Narrows. I guess at least we got to see what a fish looked like today. We thank you guys for watching. Like and share us on Facebook, and we will be out here to do it again for you tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Let's see if I can hold these without tangling them.